Good morning and welcome to the special edition of JoyNews Interactive with myself, Mapita CBD.
And Benis Abubeidu. Today's a special edition because we are going to be bringing you reactions on that documentary you just saw, Who Killed the Judges.
We're coming to you live from digital address GA0992539 Kokomemle, Accra.
We're live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144.
On Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, we're JoyNews on TV. You can also catch us on YouTube. We're My Joy Online TV. Finally, Bernice, Who Killed the Judges has been aired. And listen, social media went crazy. Hashtag Who Killed the Judges was trending.
Exactly. In fact, at a point was a top trend.
Yes.
And it tells you that a lot of people were following this documentary and keenly expecting it, Maps. And there have been mixed reactions, I must say. Some feel like they want a lot more questions answered. Others feel like this is a good documentary film that educated them on what they may never have known and the details that we gave them in that particular documentary.
But also others were just like, what's the point of this documentary? You know, because others didn't understand why we're opening old wounds, which is a fair question to ask, why we're opening old wounds. But the Holocaust, people are still investigating.
Exactly.
You know, we're still watching movies, The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, history, you know, so that we can learn from it and it doesn't repeat itself.
Exactly.
So one reaction we had, Bernice,
was from the son of one of the judges, and he is Kwabena Ejapong. And the interesting thing we did with him was that we, our colleague Roland Walker, actually sat with him as they watched the documentary. He is a part of that documentary because clearly his father was involved, and he was also there that night when his father was, you know, kidnapped and all. Initially, he says it didn't appear to be a kidnap. The person had come saying that they had to go and see the husband of one of the other judges who was sick. All right, so this is when Mr. Kwabena Ejapong was watching that documentary as it aired live on the Joy News channel yesterday, and he had something to tell Roland Walker after watching this. You can imagine, Maps, if you were in his shoes, the feeling, well, I don't know if I would be able to stand that. But here's what he told Roland Walker after watching that documentary.
So we've had the screening of the documentary, Who Killed the Judges. It's gotten a lot of rave reviews, but also mixed reviews on social media. We've also done some great analysis, but well, just this morning, we want you to also get a feel of what the mindset is, especially somebody who lived through it, but more so talk a lot more about his current state, what really are his own plans for his political activities and involvement in Ghana's democracy, because we need to make sure that we as a people all help develop our country. And Kwabena Ejapong is here with me. Good morning to you, sir.
Morning.
Well, it's great speaking to you. And I heard you give some great analysis on the various perspectives you thought, having lived through the tragedy in the first place. But summarily, what would you say about the documentary as put together?
I think it's a very tough topic, and so to have the nerves to try to research into this, you know, it is a very difficult patch of Ghana's political history. And as I said, even police officers who investigated these matters, most of them were decimated. So I want to congratulate the young man for his guts, although I would have wished that he would have spoken to President Rawlings and Captain Chekata.
But it was at a time in our history in which formatively, after the PNDC came to overthrow the Liman regime, we were going through some difficult times economically, but at the same time too, we're having this baggage from the revolutionary period. How do you think we've moved on from there since that period?
Well, I think the Ghana's history has been a checkered one. But I do believe that since 1992, that we returned to constitutional rule, progressively we've been improving. Basically in the practice of rule of law and democracy, And I think with the number of elections that we've had, we all believe that that is the way for us to go, that we rather change governments with the counting of heads, not the cutting of heads. And what is left for us is not to be stridently partisan and political to the detriment of the nation state Ghana. That's what I worry about these days. And as I said, when you listen to the media and people have become, people talk in political lenses. And I think that we have a country to guard against, we have a country to build. And although we can have our political differences, it's important that we recognize that the paramount nature of our country matters to us. So whatever we do, at the back of our minds, the national interest should predominate in whatever we do. I think those are lessons that those of us who lived through that traumatic period, and that was our youth, growing up, into our twilight. I think we are in our twilight, so we've been through the whole experience. And if I look at, the families, Justice Sarkodie, Justice Krantiado, Major Samakwa, and many others. You saw in the documentary, member of Council of State now, Samuel Kujeto, giving you a list of people who lost their lives in the early days of the revolution, and they were never accounted for. Nobody got tried for their murders. And so we've had a very difficult history. And I think as a people, we should learn from that and treat ourselves better and see politics as a way of serving the public. It's public service, and it means exactly that, serving the public. And believe me, the centrality of politics, or the beauty of it, should be the welfare of especially the underprivileged. So all of us should be thinking about ways of lifting those who don't have, and it's not a battle for the survival of the fittest, and that we should have a certain collegial mentality, that we all win together, and together we can do more. And so those are lessons that politicians, individuals, public servants, all Ghanaians should learn, and that we should never go back to those dark days.
The way you talk and the way you express yourself these days, is it because of where you're coming from, what you've been through?
Of course.
Maybe over the last 10 years and more recently?
Yes. As a kid, what I went through, and then the sacrifices I made for my political tradition, trying to seek democracy in our country, and what I've been through over the last few years, which was very painful, and it's something that hits you, that we need to put the national interest first.
If you watch the current politics that we seem to be undertaking, do we seem to have a certain hindsight or do some kind of introspection looking back at history? Because, we've had various people.
When I look at what is happening, I think we can do much better. We can learn much better from our experiences. As I said, politics is a competition of ideas, and we can agree to disagree. And sometimes, as they say, you can violently disagree. But at the bottom of it all is that we have a country to build. We have a country to build. And if we are not careful, we are shepherding, and it's essentially become a two-party state, from the last 5-6 elections. And people have become so stridently partisan that they only look at things through a partisan eye. And I think that is something that is worrying, and that we should get to a point where people can look at their own and say, look, we are not walking the right path. Can we change direction? And it should be able to come from us without fear, but I think it's something that hasn't really happened in the politics of our country.
It means we've become non-receptive to divergent views. We've become perhaps a unbalanced in the way we think based on the geographical.
Yeah, there's a lot of name calling, even within political parties, when people express diverse opinions, and I think that cannot be good for politics. You know, there should be diversity in politics. That is the very essence of democracy. People should have a choice. You understand? So whether it's in internal party politics or the national politics, people should have a choice and shouldn't be punished for having a choice. That's what I think we should do.
So that's Kwabena Ajapong there. And I mean, your father is gone. It must be very tough being his position.
And like, especially the way it happened.
Yeah.
Well, like some say, it's good. Probably this may bring healing and we can move on as a society. But just for some purpose of education, a reminder, these 3 judges and the retired army major were killed on June 30, 1982. Now, it was it has been described as one of the darkest days in the history of the country. Poet Sabukio Sabute captures the emotions, and this is what she has to say.
If their souls could speak, they would tell of a good story, a story that will keep mouths quivering, a story that will be the unending truth on the tongues of future generations, a story that will bring their children peace, a story that will be history, but this untold story is left behind. Justice Kojo Ejepon, Justice Frederick Poku Sarkodie, Justice Cecilia Afran Kranting Ado, who killed the judges.
Hashtag who killed the judges.
Exactly, Maps. And once those busts of these 3 judges continues to sit at our court complex, it will linger. The question will still be there. And like some have argued, we may never be able to find, quote-unquote, the masterminds, as some will put it, of this. But hashtag who killed the judges was trending on Twitter at the time we were airing the documentary. It was interesting because there was a lot of conversation going on about it. It was also exciting to see who killed the judges at top trend. Maps, you can just tell us what some people have been saying on Twitter. All
right, let's go to Bra Kodra, who says, how come we only talk more about the 3 judges and less about the retired major who were killed? Hashtag who killed the judges. And replying to that tweet is at Nana_DFA, who says, it doesn't make much news when men in service kill ex-servicemen as it does when they do with upright civilians, not to talk about Supreme Court judges. There were so many senior officers who were killed during this military trials. Hashtag when gun rules is a must-read book.
It's interesting, Mapito, and we know that we are also doing it to help the larger chunk of the population that's believed to have been very young when this happened to get connected to history. You're watching this special edition of JoyNews Interactive with myself, Benes Abubedu.
And myself, Mapito Sibede.
At this time, we'll have to take you to the new head office of the Standard Chartered Bank Ghana. After some 102 years, I believe, of operating in the country, they are opening a new headquarters here. President Akufo-Addo is speaking. Let's take you there live and we'll be back with more.
Near a decline in inflation and interest rates, or in education, where we have implemented the free senior high school policy, which has enabled 270,000 more Ghanaian youth to access senior high school than they otherwise would have done. Or in health, where we have revived the National Health Insurance Scheme so that the NHIS card is once again meaningful. Or in agriculture, where we instituted the program for planting for food and jobs, which ensured that this year we did not import a single grain of maize into the country. Or in bringing relief to the Ghanaian people and spurring our business and industry through significant reductions of utility tariffs, contrary to the experience of the previous 8 years, which had witnessed only systematic increases in utility tariffs. Our time in office has been inspiring, has impacted positively on the life of every Ghanaian and in every part of the country. In spite of these modest successes, you will acknowledge that if you who are gathered in this room do not perform creditably in the next 2 years, then our best efforts will come to naught. A conference such as this is thus of the utmost necessity, and that is why I'm here. In recent weeks, and in the course of my nationwide tours, we've had the opportunity to meet and to share ideas, particularly on the need for stronger collaboration. I propose the concept of assemblies without borders to you and indicated to you that effective partnership between metropolitan and municipal assemblies, which are in close proximity to each other and located in one functional geographical area, represent the best way in dealing with issues such as sanitation, transportation, disaster management, and security, amongst others. Currently, such a system is being implemented by the Accra Metropolitan in the Accra Metropolitan area. Together, the Chief Executive of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly and the Chief Executives of some municipal assemblies in Accra are working to deal with the vexed issue of sanitation in Accra, with the AMA Chief Executive as their coordinator. This collaboration has achieved significant results so far. The heaps of rubbish that were once permanent features in the areas of the respective assemblies in question are no longer in existence. This is a system I will recommend to other MMDAs for implementation. At the same time, we must continue to enforce our laws on sanitation, educate the public on the importance of disposing waste properly, and through private partnerships, facilitate the construction of recycling plants to deal with waste. With limited funds and several competing needs at the assemblies, and I'm sure many of you are asking how, for instance, you're going to make funds available for the establishment of these waste processing plants. Article 245 of the Constitution of the Republic demands, amongst others, that MMDCs formulate programs and strategies for the effective mobilization of resources at the local level. It is incumbent on you to be innovative in this regard. Increasing your internally generated funds by some 30% should not be beyond you. Luckily for you, policies such as the National Digital Property Addressing System and the National Identification System, which we have implemented, should help you generate more revenue. Delivering on government's agenda should also mean that you pay particular attention and help in the effective delivery of our flagship programs such as Free SHS, Planting for Food and Jobs, and the Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program, which is providing the equivalent of $1 million per constituency to finance capital expenditure for infrastructure and other facilities in the localities. The One Village, One Dam, and One District, One Factory policy initiatives, like all the aforementioned innovative introductions to the economy, are all very much local initiatives which must interest you. The challenge is very much for you to take advantage of these programs to bring change to your districts. You have the opportunity through these policies to change your districts from places where people move from to places where people move to. And I entreat you to help ensure the effective implementation and the sustainability of these flagship programs in your districts, municipalities, and metropolises. If you are successful in this, government's program of improving the structure of our governance system and bringing full democracy to local government, which is currently on course, should not intimidate you. As you may be aware, we have scheduled a referendum to remove the entrenched clause of Article 55 of the Constitution to permit direct popular election of metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives to coincide, for reasons of cost, with next year's district assembly elections. We are also in the midst of the process of regional reorganization to accommodate popular demand for the creation of new regions to bring governance closer to the doorsteps of the people. The Brody Commission has completed and submitted its work together with their recommendations. Before the end of this year, the Electoral Commission will conduct the relevant referenda to solicit the popular verdicts of the affected peoples. If the people of Ghana endorse our request to make governance at the local level more democratic, you should brace yourselves to face the electorate directly to account for your stewardship and justify your positions as the chief executive of the metropolis, municipality, or district. I believe your performances in office should put you in good stead. Thus far, let me commend you on the good relationship many of you have with members of parliament and constituency executives from our party, the New Patriotic Party. And let me encourage those of you who are having strained relations with your MPs and or constituency executives to redouble your efforts at harmony. I have said it before, and the history of our nation tells us that the misfortunes of ruling parties in the general elections of 2000, 2008, and 2016 had a lot to do with the collapse in relations between MMDCs, MPs, and constituency executives of the then ruling parties. I urge you to forge closer relationships with your MPs and constituency executives, as it will only inure to our collective benefit and guarantee greater and more extensive development for the welfare of the Ghanaian people. We should never forget that it is the victory of the New Patriotic Party in 2016 that has made it possible for all of us, myself included as the prime beneficiary, to occupy our present positions. As chief executives, let me reiterate that you have my confidence and trust. The people of Ghana put their hopes in us. We dare not betray their trust. This is a sacred opportunity, and I ask you to join me to make this nation the happy and prosperous place it should be. I wish you a successful program and traveling mercies back to your localities at the end of this conference. May God bless us all in our homeland, Ghana, and make her great and strong. Thank you for your attention, and I'll be back this evening to interact with you. I have to rush off somewhere, but I'm due back this evening around about 6, so we can have a closer interaction. Thank you very much.
Apologies, the president was actually speaking at a training for MMDCEs at Obujo and not commissioning the new Stand-Chat building at Ringwood. Forgive us for that. But before then, we were bringing you your comments on Twitter on hashtag Who Killed the Judges. Mapito.
All right, so let's go. Let's see if we can get more tweets on that hashtag Who Killed the Judges. We already read this one, and he said hashtag When Gun Rules is a must-read book. So last night, a couple of us were gathered here and we wanted to see who killed the judges. And here are some of the newsroom reactions.
Are we live? All right, lights out, lights out. Lights out. Lights out. Hey.
as a typical day in the lives of Ghanaians. But the course of events later on that day made him one of the darkest in Ghana's history. Called to Inner Temple in 1960, he was elevated to the position of High Court Judge in 1977. He was married.
Took part in this conspiracy. Members of the board just seems to be proud. And Mr. Amui.
These are national exercises. They said they were carrying out instructions. Yeah. That was their defense. That they felt that they were carrying out state instructions. Mysterious end of their lives. Now I know that I'm being used wrongly against these people. I know well the truth behind the killing of these 3 High Court judges and the retired major. I therefore emphasize
what's your takeaway?
Very enlightening, very educating work. Let me just congratulate the special assignments team, Raymond Aqua, writer and producer. This is very thorough work. I can't imagine the work that he had to go through to get some of these interviews, to get some of these files, and really kudos to Raymond. It's amazing work, and of course Elvis and everyone else who worked on it. But I think that it was very educating, raises a lot of questions. I admire the way the work is balanced, in that accusations are made. We know exactly what happened with the Special Investigative Board, the SIB. We know exactly what happened with the Public Tribunal. We know exactly what happened with the National Reconciliation Commission. We know which persons were accused by whom, and we know what their responses were. So it's a very balanced narrative, and in my view at least, and anyone who watched can come to his own conclusion as to who killed the judges. But great work by Raymond and the rest of the guys there. I'm very enlightened.
But was the question answered for you as to who killed the judges?
I think I have more questions now than ever. Now it's not just about who killed the judges, it's about who issued the operational notes. It's about how powerful was Amate Kwe. It's about what was on that tape that former President Rawlings recorded.
So basically, after watching this, what's your takeaway from who killed the judges?
Well, first of all, I think that is well put together. Great work by the team. I think that it would meet people's expectations, given the amount of publicity that has really gone on over the last few weeks. I also think that it's an important part of our history that people need to know. What this documentary did, from my point of view, is that it laid bare the facts. You heard from key players in this event, their response to allegations that were made against them. And so, I mean, you are left to draw your own conclusions as to who killed the judges. I really think that what is most important is that we know this important piece of our history as a people, and that we'll be guided by it, and that we will remember it, in some of the things that we do, some of the choices that we make as a country. So I think it's very important that this was put together, and more importantly, was well put together.
Okay, so whilst we were watching, I saw you shaking your head at a point, nodding. What was going through your head, whilst you were watching this very captivating documentary?
Well, it was just me, forming my own opinions based on the facts that were presented in the documentary.
Yes, and well, it's been an hour. We've all been glued to our seats. We've been unable to get up. Let me find out from you first. After watching this, what exactly is going through your head right now?
Okay, so first of all, I want to say kudos to the team, the production team that put this whole documentary together. I think they did an awesome, fantastic job. I wasn't born at the time this whole thing happened, and so this was news to me, but I watched with a lot of, sort of goosebumps. I couldn't believe all these happened. I was actually touched, especially with the female judge's case, you know, a nurse and mother, abducted in the evening whilst taking care of her daughter or son, you know, a baby, and killed in cold blood and burnt. But for the rains, they maybe could have not traced, you know, their bodies and all. So it's really sad. It's really, really sad. That's all I have to say.
Ernest, I saw you looking on the TV, folding your arms like you're doing now. But what was going through your head the whole time, the 1 hour? What was going through your mind?
Well, for me, it took me a bit down memory lane because I remember I watched the proceedings of the NRC back then. Only that now it makes more sense. I'm not sure I understood so much of what transpired at the time. This documentary puts it in perspective, and so I can really understand what happened and what the NRC sought to do at the time. Who killed the judges? I think this documentary has made it very simple for us to put the dots together and draw a conclusion, and it's very easy to do. It points to just one direction as to who killed the judges. I think this is intriguing, good work done by Raymond and the producers. I think that it is good for our history, and it is good that we have this documented. I don't know what government and what as a nation would want to make of this, but it helps us to have a conversation about for instance, security, our governance, you know, and this democracy. It is the Fourth Republic. It is the republic that has traveled so far, 25 years. We're doing well. And hopefully it is going to stay and grow stronger. And there's so much to learn as a country so that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. Very intriguing documentary, if you ask.
Finally, I mean, Daniel doesn't mention that it leaves him with so many questions that he wants answers to. Did you also live with, you know, a few answers, questions that you really wish that, you know, you could have answers to, or for you everything was, you know,
there are questions that people need to answer, but if you watch this documentary, I'm sure even without saying, you can sort of assume, and you wouldn't be far from right, what the answers are. You know, people need to answer questions. I agree with Daniel, but I think that if you paid attention, you would know that the answer is A or B.
I think this documentary film, Who Killed the Judges, puts everything in perspective, and I think it's very important education, you know, material even for people in secondary schools, even for people in universities. Because prior to this documentary, I tried going onto the internet to see if I would find anything that has, you know, anything that has to do with this properly documented. Sad to say, I didn't find any, but thankfully we have this documentary film that will now become the reference point, you know, for all the purposes that this documentary would serve. I think one, it would give much more meaning. It would give more meaning to Martyrs' Day. You know, now when we talk about celebration of Martyrs' Day, we would now get to understand the pictures that we saw, the gruesome murder of the judges that we saw would play in our minds and would, you know, put much more meaning, you know, to it.
Bernice, let me take your reaction.
Well, I thought that it was really insightful, Maps, and I agree with a lot of my other colleagues who spoke. We were pretty young at the time. I mean, I remember watching a couple of the commission hearings on Ghana television, but it makes more sense now because it's been pieced together. The story has been told in a really complete form, which is really good. It helps you understand. And also, Maps, it didn't feel like 1 hour and 30 minutes because it was really intriguing. It was exciting, more. Yeah. And I liked your reenactment. I was impressed. I didn't know you had such good acting skills.
Man, come on, let's go to Twitter. Let's go to Twitter. At One Key says, exactly, the people who actually gave the order for the judges to be killed may never be apprehended. We just have to move on as a country, hashtag who killed the judges. But to move on as a country, we need to also look back into the past. Exactly. And see what's been haunting us. Let's address the things that have been haunting us. But at Lexus Bill says, were you able to connect the dots? Can you tell hashtag who killed the judges? Can you tell? And replying to Lexus is F. Nyamache, who says, connecting the dots looks complicated. Too much conflicting narrations shielding the revelation of the criminals involved in the murder. Hashtag who killed the judges. So this one is from Miles, who says, this documentary is just going to poison a whole innocent generation with bitterness. Hashtag who killed the judges. This tweet, I find it very interesting because I can relate to it, is that when we're watching, for me as a South African, when I'm watching like apartheid movies, a lot of people are just going to be like, you're going to become bitter. But I'm like, I'm not going to become bitter. I just want to know what happened. Yeah, exactly. Let me understand how my parents, my grandmother was feeling, so that even tomorrow when I relate to a white person, I know how I'm relating. You know, not that I'll be judgmental or anything, but you know what? I understand why this person is doing this, A, B, and C. You understand?
I get you.
So very interesting. Not that it's going to poison the innocent generation, but it's going to educate.
I appreciate that you brought in the angle of where you come from, because I was just going to say that in South Africa, for example, you've got more than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies chronicling even apartheid alone from different angles. And for me as a Ghanaian who didn't experience the apartheid firsthand, it gives me some knowledge. I can talk about apartheid. I can say that, okay, for example, I know around that time so-and-so happened and black people were not allowed to go here and there because of a movie. And so it's a two-sided thing, or a two-edged thing. For some, it's really good because it helps, you know, a younger generation appreciate and understand, and not even for only Ghanaians, but for other people outside the world. I will not be surprised, Mapito, if this particular documentary is able to, you know, feature on other television stations across the world, even as people may seek to talk about how justice and the law and the military and how it all worked together at a certain point in our history. So yeah, not to discredit his comments, but yes, there are those who feel that way and others who feel otherwise.
All right, so let's go to Adlex's Bill again, who says, I'm left with a few more questions. Only Amedaka can answer. Hashtag who killed the judges. And at Ms. Mine says, let's move on. Hashtag who killed the judges. And replying to that, let's move on tweet. This one is from @Nana_DFA, who says, we've moved on, but we need to know the whole story. The families of those judges deserve that, at least. And at Tulsa_Bra says, if your family member was part of the judges killed, will you say this? You have no idea what they've gone through.
Interesting.
Let's go to Sammy Fawson, who says, things have happened in Ghana in the name of power. Hashtag who killed the judges. Hashtag JoyNews. And Kobe Wisdom Oti says, Asemo. And Nature_2131 says, it's sad, boss. Democracy is bay. At Kingsman_GH says, just as the Most Reverend Palmer Buckle said, it will be difficult to get the true story because there has been a lot of killings. At Joy's on TV, hashtag who killed the judges. At John_Kumson says, so sometimes there are things to be left unsaid. Then we all move on as one people with a common destiny. Politics has divided us so much that we can't do without it. Hashtag who killed the judges must be put to rest. Going to Asari Jonathan 6, and he says, I think our freedom and justice thing should be freedom and freedom. Hashtag who killed the judges.
Very interesting comment, Mapito. And at Mr_Endowed says, hashtag who killed the judges. In the first place, bringing up a curfew made it easy to get targets stationed at their pickup points. Yeah, interesting. And Emmanuel Jivenu says, no matter how hard the truth is suppressed, it'll definitely surface, just a matter of time. 36 years now, hashtag who killed the judges? Answered, says hashtag JoyNews.
And this one is from Adlila Ghana, who says, I pray the NPP is not behind bringing this issue up because it is a low blow. This is history. We know evil has been done. Allow us to forget. The previous generation did their reconciliation. They left us left us out of it.
Why this now? Hashtag who killed the judges. And we spoke to producer of this particular documentary film, Raymond Aqua, and he did answer that question, because you're not the only one asking it. Why now? Why now? Because majority of our population now may not be aware of this history, and many believe that history is good to revisit, not to revisit the pain per se, but to learn from the mistakes and see how we can move on and be better people. And also to educate, like I said, in South Africa you have the Sarafinas, even for Rwanda you have Hotel Rwanda,
yes.
and all these other things that chronicle. Those are proper films, but that's why this is a documentary film, and you see all the reenactment, trying to tell the story from as many angles as possible, and also to, you know, profile and document, put down. If our children come in, they say, we just want to know what happened, at least they can have a reference to that.
All right, let's go back to Twitter. At Jojo17 says, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And he's quoting Sir Winston Churchill. And we need to learn something from hashtag Who Killed the Judges documentary tonight. And at Nana Dollar says, there are no truths, only perspectives. No facts, only accounts. Streets Bib says, this hashtag Who Killed the Judges documentary, if it no provoke my thoughts, the way I go boy, because the hype really ginger me. Okay, and then he came back and said, documentary was worth the hype. Okay, so, you know.
Hashtag JoyNews, hashtag Who Killed the Judges. We appreciate, thank you very much. On behalf of the producers of this documentary film, we are glad that it lived up to the expectation for you. And we are also glad that you waited this long just to see it.
Let's take the last tweet from @Peter Assen, who says, hashtag Who Killed the Judges. We all seem to have forgotten the assassinations that transpired in the country prior to the 2016 elections. Let's stop pretending like we care, because we have lost our empathy.
I'm honestly, I'm at a loss here. Yeah. I would want you to be a bit specific about the assassinations that you refer to. But thank you so much for your comments. And this is our special edition of JoyNews Interactive. And we've been bringing you reactions on that documentary, Who Killed the Judges. We've shared a lot. Personal reactions from a son of one of the judges who was killed, and also from you as well who watched it. It's now time to bring you reactions from Facebook. We just brought you those from Twitter.
All right, Abwaje Peter says, JoyNews has done well with the documentary of Who Killed the Judges. I hope the same JoyNews will also carry out another documentary on who killed Yana and 40 elders of Dagbon. Good morning and thank you.
Thanks for your comment, Abwaje Peter. We'll forward it to the appropriate quarters and hopefully get your response.
Francis Yabwa says, those people who are saying this documentary is not relevant, come to Germany, still telecast the documentary of Adolf Hitler. How the World War II started, the monster days of the Holocaust. Nelson comes in to say, today the Germans are still investigating the Holocaust to know what went wrong and prosecuting all soldiers who had involvement in it. Edem Kwame comes in to reply and says, interesting, and Boache is just laughing his head off and saying, such knowledge. Let's go to Herman Hesse, who says, there was nothing new that the documentary highlighted. All the information in the documentary was already known to us. Okay, multimedia, this is a half-baked documentary.
Right.
And you know what? We accept all criticism, good and bad, and so that we can work better for the next time.
All right, but Ivy Barbara Arthur says, my exact sentiments, the question still remains, who killed the judges? Ahmed Kilogram says, then you weren't watching the documentary. He seems to disagree with the two of them.
At Redeemer Folly says, JoyNews, I didn't get the object of this documentary. Okay.
Because it didn't settle the long doubts we have concerning this case. All right. He thinks it was a waste of time. Mama Peter, really, who killed the judges? Is that a rhetorical question? Or it's a question that's saying we're going to give you answers to? Because like it is, as it is, you cannot manufacture the answers from anywhere. The people need to give you the answers, and clearly from what we got, and even like what we heard from some of our respondents in that particular documentary, there have been a lot of people who've been silenced in death. A particular tape that the former President Derrick Rawlings claimed to have had was never brought as evidence. And so, yes, the question still lingers. Who killed the judges? But like we said, this is to document, put together all that we know so far so that a lot more people can be educated on the incident.
All right, let's go to Amadi, who says, say it again, so many childish comments. If you don't know history and it doesn't affect you, just listen and don't leave a comment. Apia Kwesi says, till this time, he continues to praise AK-47 twice a year within democratic society, even though he failed all his promises. Ghana Pa. All right, let's see more comments on that. Hashtag who killed the judges. Julius Afedi says, you won't watch, listen and learn, but to post your ignorance, this is a fine. Though not conclusive, I believe it's important.
Okay.
All right, so Berdis, now some exciting thing. Today,
Right.
the Cowbell Tour enters day 3. Komla Dom has been following this for us, but let's see what's been happening for the last 3 days. Cowbell in the
Interesting,
sky.
Peter, and I just like the fact that they're engaging students in this particular project for them to experience how this works, maybe give them much more practical hands-on feel of what they study, especially in the science class, about how this works, the helium and all that. I'm sure they'll do some more understanding of physics to all of this. So it's just interesting. I just actually think that this is a good initiative. And
would you go on one?
I don't mind, actually.
Okay.
I'm not scared of heights. No.
You're not scared?
No,
okay,
heights
so
not my
Cowbell, hi, listen. Yeah, I mean,
it won't be bad to have the two of us, but I'm just wondering, does it have a weight
limit?
Weight limit.
Okay, so when I was speaking to Komla, he said it's, I think, 200 kilograms.
Okay, well, that doesn't mean that can make it.
So, I mean, we're okay. We're
good. We're just on the borderline, the two of us combined.
Almost, you know, just almost.
All right, so we've got Komla Adom, and he's been with the team since this project started, even when it was launched, and he will join us with the latest. Hello, Komla.
Hi, Bernice.
Hi,
Komla.
We can sense the excitement in your voice. Just tell us what you've been able to report now. What's happening?
Well, Bernice and Maps, today's been super exciting. Today's been the most adventurous of the 3 days we've been on this particular project, I tell you. Because as early as 5:30, you know, Sammy Forcing, our own Sammy Forcing, and then YFM's Brownberry, they got onto the flight and did about 45 to 50 minute flight, you know, over the Afiena Shy plains, okay? But the most interesting part, Venice and Maps, I have to say, is while they were up in the sky, you know, flying and doing all the interesting things up above the earth, we, the other team members on ground, were trying to locate them so we could, you know, capture the moment when they are about to land and all of that. But interestingly, we went through a whole lot of places, meandering. It was like a jungle adventure. you should be on this particular trip to experience at first and what I'm trying to explain. But at the end of the day, we were able to meet them. You know, they said it was an amazing flight. And we moved from where they landed and we've come to Ganata Senior High School, which is somewhere around Dodowa, where a short while ago the students were addressed by the MD of Cowbell. And then the pilot, Kuhn Ordiner, he told them about the Archimedes principle and how it works. At the moment, we are on the football field, and the students are walking past. They are going to the base of the balloon where the pilot is stationed in there, and he's explaining a few things to them. And so that's what is happening at this particular moment as I speak to you, Bernice and Mark.
Kamla, tell us about the reactions of these students.
It's been amazing. So one of the first questions the pilot asked when we got into the auditorium was, who can explain what the law of Archimedes or the Archimedes principle is? Then, interestingly, one young walked up the stage and perfectly explained it. That when a body is partially immersed in a fluid, it experiences an upthrust, which is, you know, equal to the weight of the, you know, displaced air and all of that. And it took everybody by surprise. For many of the people who were here, they were expecting, you know, some of the science, the teachers, or, for example, the senior science, the boys prefects, for example, to make the answer. But this young lady popped out, and she made the answer correctly, and she was giving some prizes for answering that question. And she got a lot of applause from, you know, her mates and her colleagues in the auditorium. It was a very beautiful atmosphere there.
So, Kamla, if anyone wants to join, how do they go about this?
What they have to do simply is to keep watching us, keep watching Joy News, listening to Joy FM. In the course of a week and in the entire month, I'm sure we're going to be rolling out a few questions that our listeners and viewers can attempt to answer.
Okay.
And once they do that, we'll try and put the poll together. And once we do that, we'll select a few winners from that poll. And they may just stand a chance of, you know, flying on the hot air balloon. Alternatively, for the students, each of the schools we are visiting, there is a competition that the students are expected to enter. So they're expected to write a 20-line essay on what the hot air balloon can contribute to Ghana's tourism industry. So that 20-line essay will be submitted to their head of science department, and then they will be picked up by the Cowbell team. They'll be evaluated and marked. Then the best of them, you know, of course, will stand the chance of flying in the hot air balloon. As simple as that, Venice and Mark.
It will be really exciting to fly in that hot air balloon. But if I were a viewer, I'll start, you know, reviewing my notes. What's the Archimedes principle?
Right now.
And all the science information that I'll need. But hey, thank you so much, Kamla. Keep having fun. We'll get in touch with you later, Maps.
Goodness.
I just wanna experience it, you know, it's really exciting.
Why not? Why not? Okay, but people have been talking about it on Twitter. Let's see if we can get just a few tweets on that hashtag cowbell in the sky. So this was Sammy Fosson, and at Hits 103.9 says, we are flying with at Sammy Fosson and at I am Brownberry, hashtag cowbell in the sky. And if you watch this video, he was just like, he looked nervous.
Sammy?
Yeah, he looked very nervous. He was just like, okay, I can't wait for this. Let's see if we can get more tweets on that hashtag cowbell in the sky. This was yesterday.
Yeah, that's a really cool shot.
Wow.
Israel is flying in the sky. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Israel decided to, you know, take some photos and videos while he was up there. But as always, somebody will be up to mischief with something. And so it says, Israel is in the sky to check for all the men's good officers. Hashtag cowbell in the sky. That's just for laughs, please.
All right, let's take one last tweet, and from @Edward Asari says, these students had the chance to view the whole process. #cowbell in the sky. Today has been amazing. And indeed it has been amazing.
Yes, even on this special edition of JoyNews Interactive, as we brought you reactions on Twitter, Facebook, and from a son of one of the judges who were killed after we aired who killed the judges.
That'll be all from us. Remember, the conversation continues. Join News on TV, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also go to My Joy Online. You can also go to YouTube. We're My Joy Online TV.
Stay with us here on the Joy News channel, your most credible news source. I'm Benis Abubedu.
And I'm Abisa CVD. Stay blessed.